My buddy Steve pulling out with his wife Renee, headed back out on the open road. We always enjoy their visits. Him and his wife RV full-time now that he's retired. Heading all over the United States, seeing things they want to see, living the dream. "32 degrees outside. You come out here in the greenhouse, it's 62 degrees out here, and this is why we have a greenhouse. It's so nice coming in here in the nice chilly morning, and it's nice and toasty warm. It's a feeling you just can't describe. Tomatoes aren't quite ready to up pot yet, so it's going to be a couple days probably. Our Sweet 100s and our Celebrities are pretty close where we could do those, but I'm going to wait a little bit. We'll do them all together. You can see our garlic starting to come up here. Going to have a nice little bunch of garlic here in this lick tub. And then we have some nice spring onions here from the sprouting onions that we took out of the root cellar. Little update on the chicken litter box. Now that the girls have found the upper roosts up here, you can see they've been depositing a lot of their scat up here in the litter box, which creates a lot less mess down on the floor. And one of the Americanas was kind enough to let one loose here while we were videoing. But this clay material that we have in here, you can come in here with a litter scoop and pick all that out of there, and you don't have to bend over clear down on the floor down there. And it keeps the coop a lot cleaner, and it helps with the smell in the coop as well, because that soaks up a lot of the odor. Hi, girlies. The girls are doing good out here. It's a little chilly outside, so they're still hanging out in here. But here's a little scoop that Kelly uses to clean her little litter box in there. Sort of like similar to cleaning the cat box. We turned the hydrant on this morning so we could run the yard sprinklers. And there's a pressure relief valve that goes right here. Was constantly leaking and it wouldn't close. And what that does is it allows the water to drain down into the sprinkler system, because we have stuff screwed into the hydrant where everything's closed. That valve, when you turn the hydrant off, allows the air to come in and lets the water flow back underground. So we got to go to the store and get us another relief valve. Alright, we've got our new pressure relief valve on there. Let's give it a shot. Good deal. Doesn't leak. It closed up. I guess maybe it does drip. Looks like I'm going to have to put some Teflon tape on it. I thought it'd be okay with the plastic. So what this does is, while the hydrant is on, this valve closes and forces water down that pipe. And then when you close the hydrant, it opens up. And you can hear the air going in there, and that allows the air to go back down the pipe of the hydrant like it's supposed to get under the ground. And it also allows this pipe to drain here. As you can see, our water's still frozen here today, so it goes way underground to where it's still 52 degrees down there and it doesn't freeze. Otherwise your pipes would burst. But if this pipe wasn't on here and this hydrant was just wide open, we wouldn't need that. But because we got closed areas on both sides, we need that bleeder. But we could open this when we were done, but a lot of times we have the hose connected to this. But if we were to open this, this would do the same thing. But just in case we forget, that's why that valve is there. Now I may allow that to drip, that way it'll keep this water dish full, and my bees come and drink out of this dish. So I'll probably go ahead and let that drip. I just watered all these fruit trees here. We're still watering these by hand because I don't have a drip system in over here yet. And then I turned on the drip system over here. We've been having problems with the rabbits chewing through this drip tape to get to the water. Even though we have water all over the property that they can drink, they choose to chew my drip tape up. So anybody that's ever used drip tape, if you're using these type of connectors, these things are super easy. You just slip your drip tape on it and then you screw these out, and that wedges the drip tape onto the nipple. So what I do when I get a hole, I'll just cut it where the hole is, put one of these in. But the one that I had here had like 10 of these in it, so I just replaced this drip tape today. What I think I'm going to do, it might help you guys out too, the supply line that's a lot thicker, a lot harder, they haven't been messing with that at all. And it's been here over a year now. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go with the hard line on these tree rows because they're outside of the garden and the rabbits can get to them. And then at every tree I'll put an emitter on either side so it waters widely, and then hopefully they won't mess with those thicker hoses. Now Brandy does a pretty good job chasing critters away when she's out here during the day, but most of these nocturnal creatures like the rabbits and stuff like that come out at night and do their damage at night. So let's go over to the chicken coop and let the chickens out. I love to hear the wind in this hardware cloth. Sounds like an old western. Can you hear it? We just got through watering all of our transplanted roses here along the fence, and I'm hand watering those because I don't have a drip line in yet. And the sprinklers are on here in the front yard. We're trying to green everything up now that the sprinkler lines aren't frozen and we can actually run them. And I noticed this sprinkler here in the corner wasn't going all the way to the corner. So if you've never adjusted these gear drive sprinklers, I'm going to tell you how to do it. Now there's one fixed adjustment on this sprinkler. It's wherever the stop pattern is, which is fully to the left. So wherever it stops going to the left, that can't be adjusted. That's your fixed point. So when you're installing these sprinklers, say you wanted, like this one here is doing a 180 degree arc, you would install it to where the left hand stop point would be right where you wanted it on this side, which would be right to the corner of the fence. And the adjustable portion adjusts how far it actually goes to the right. From very minute adjustment, you could do something this narrow, to full 360 pattern all the way around. But we wanted to do it 180. So to get this to go into the corner, we had to take the whole sprinkler body and rotate it to the left. And it rotates on the actual connection to where it connects down to the sprinkler pipe down below. So if it's too loose, you want to rotate it all the way around to the right to tighten it, and then set your left hand spray over here. So being I twisted this sprinkler to the left to get the stream to go clear to the corner, now it is stopping short here on the right hand side. So we have to turn our adjustment screw to bring our right hand stopping point over here to the fence. And remember, the right hand one is the only one you can adjust. You can have it stop out here, you can have it stop here, or you can have it go all the way around. Obviously this is a shelter belt here and we don't want it going all the way around. Now if you wanted to check your adjustment, you can actually turn the sprinkler head to the right and you'll see where it stops. However, well, I guess you can turn it to the left. One brand that I was using before, you could only turn it to the right. And if you wanted to turn it to the left, you had to wait until it cycled around. But this one here, the Rainbird, actually goes both ways. So it's easy when you're adjusting. You don't have to wait for the full cycle. You can turn it left and right. So you have two screws on this sprinkler head. This one back here is your rotation adjustment. This one up here is your spray pattern adjustment. So right now we've got it spraying like full distance. If you wanted to shorten the distance, say your lawn ended right here, you would take this screw right here and you're going to take a small screwdriver, very small, that'll fit in that hole. This is a tiny screwdriver. The head of it's only about 1/8 of an inch wide. So you would take this screw here and you would screw it to the right. Remember, righty-tighty. And that would send an adjustment screw down into that water stream, which would shorten the distance that it runs. And then to make the stream go wider, you would back the screw out to the left, and that stream goes a little further out. So this is our adjustment for our distance to the right, how far it cycles. There's a plus on this side and a minus on this side, and you'll see the arrows down here. So this is the way you want to turn it. For plus would be to the right, and if you wanted it to go less that way, you would turn this to the left. I guess you could remember left is less, but we want it to go more, so we're going to turn it just maybe a quarter turn to the right. And like I said, we'll turn this all the way to the right and see where it ends up, and that's about perfect. It stops right here along the fence. So I'm going to watch it cycle. It is cold out here. It's still about 40 degrees and we still have a breeze making my nose run. Alright, there we go. Clear the corner. Now you don't factor in the wind. So say the wind was blowing the spray this way, you want to look at the main stream of water, because if the wind wasn't blowing, your water is going to go too far that way. So now we're cycling back to the right. Even though I can turn it, if I'm bending over, I can't see everywhere it's going. So that's good. It's going right to the fence and then stopping and turning and going back. Perfect. So we're going to look at all the other sprinklers in the yard. This is the beginning of the year. At the first startup of the season, you want to go through and make sure all your sprinklers are adjusted correctly. I had to move the adjustment on these sprinklers because when these trees were large over here, nothing would grow underneath them because of the pine needles and the type of tree. But we're going to get some grass growing out there, so I made these sprinklers go full 360 out here. We got all of our heads adjusted out here. The problem that we ran into here on the place is, I don't know if anybody actually figured how many sprinkler heads you could put on each zone and still have enough water flow. Some of the zones have up to 8 sprinklers on them, which is, I think, is a little too much. This zone here had, let's see, there's 5, 6, 7. This zone here had 8, and it wasn't doing very well. So a sprinkler was added for some reason out between these two sprinklers. So I deleted that one and I just capped it off. Probably because of the rose bushes weren't allowing this sprinkler to water out to the edge of the driveway. But now that we've moved those roses, this sprinkler will go clear to the edge here. So again, I deleted that sprinkler there. The sprinkler hitting our downspout. So if you're putting in a sprinkler system, you want to figure out what the gallons per minute is on your system. So whatever water source, wherever the pipe is that you're going to tap for your sprinkler system, you want to measure from that. You don't want to measure at the pump, because depending on your piping and all that, you may not get as many gallons per minute out to the end where the pipe that you're using. So whatever pipe you're using, take that, figure out what your gallons per minute are. So if it's a 3/4 inch pipe, make sure you have a 3/4 inch valve on it and a 3/4 inch hose or whatever. And get a vessel that you can measure the water in. Usually the standard's around 15 gallons a minute, something like that. So get like 3 or 4 5-gallon buckets and turn your hose on and start a timer and time for exactly 1 minute. And then when you're done with 1 minute, shut it off and then measure how many gallons you have at the end of 1 minute. So if you've got 15 gallons a minute, you don't want to go over 15 gallons a minute on your zone. So figure out how many gallons per minute each sprinkler uses, and then just, let's say each sprinkler uses 3 gallons a minute and you have 15 gallons a minute capacity. You don't want to go over 5 sprinkler heads on that zone. Now, there are adjustments on the sprinkler heads. You can get different size orifices that go in the sprinkler head. So if you choke the orifice down to a smaller gallon per minute, and you can still get the distance that you want on it, you can add more sprinkler heads by doing that, by changing the orifice in the end of it. And quality sprinklers will come with different size orifices, or you can order the different ones even if they don't come with them, as long as they accept them. So if you want the best use of your sprinklers, make sure you do that. Now, placement's a big thing too. You can see here, I would have put a sprinkler probably here in the corner spraying that way, and then this one down there, and then this one over here covers this. You just got to set it up correctly. You don't want a lot of double coverage either. So lay it out on a piece of paper and figure out where your coverage is going to be. Now, when you have 2 sprinklers like this, obviously when they make their arc, you're going to get like a pointed area here that doesn't get covered. So you want to make sure you have a sprinkler that will cover that pointed area. So maybe a sprinkler in the middle on the next run that covers that area. So just lay it out, figure out how far your sprinklers are going to shoot, and you can figure it out. Now, a lot of people will tell you this isn't rocket science, but I did have a rocket scientist teach me something one time. My buddy in high school, his dad was actually a rocket scientist. In fact, he's the one that developed the tiles on the bottom of the space shuttle that kept the space shuttle from burning up in re-entry, those insulation tiles. But we were doing something over his house one day out in the barn. In fact, I think my buddy, he liked chicken, so he was making a chicken coop. So I told his dad that we decreased the size of the water pipe so we would get more pressure out of it. And he says, "What are you talking about? You can't get more pressure out of a pipe by decreasing the pipe." And I said, "Really?" I said, "It seems like there's more pressure." And he says, "No, you're increasing the velocity of the water." He said, "The system's only going to give you 15 pounds of pressure, and you can't increase that without increasing the size of the pump and the capacity of the system, because you only got so much available." But it does relate in one way. If you decrease the size of the orifice, causing the velocity of the water to come up, say you're not using as many sprinklers as you could, or you're just, like I said, decreasing the hole, you are increasing the residual pressure in the pipe. You're not increasing the pressure coming out. But it's all a velocity pressure thing. And we had the little argument for a little bit, but he won because he's a heck of a lot smarter than me. So now we need to go down to the basement and get all of the chicken stuff out of the basement now that the brooding portion is done. And Kelly's going to have an actual brooding area in the chicken coop, in the storage side of the chicken coop. So once I get that built, anytime she needs to brood more chicks, she can do it out there, and we won't need to do it in the basement. So I'm going to bring all that stuff up out of the basement for her. We've been bringing our chicken shavings out here to the compost pile here on the end of the garden. We haven't had enough moisture this winter for this to really break down really well. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll get the tractor out here and I'll flatten this out a little bit, and I'll bring the hose out here and put a little sprinkler on this thing and run it for like all day. Let it get nice and moist. And then once it's no longer muddy here, I'll come toss the pile with the tractor bucket and get this stuff heating up. I probably won't add any more to this pile this year. As we start mowing, I'll move this pile down and I'll start a new pile here with the new grass clippings and all that, and I'll let this compost down with all that chicken manure and the straw and the grass and the hay, everything else we've had in there, and that'll be real nice compost. Now with the dry winter and so far dry spring that we've had, I'm a little worried about our perennials, like our rhubarb and our asparagus. Last year we had a nice wet spring and everything popped up on its own, but as dry as it's been, I'm wondering if we're going to need to start watering that, and hopefully it just hasn't died with the drought we've had this winter. This is the tub that Kelly uses. She had 2 of them brooding her 2 batches of chicks. The girls are out flying today. Must have warmed up for them. Anytime you have water out and you have bees around, make sure there's something in the water that the bees can land on, because these plastic water whatever it is, feed tubs or water tubs, the sides are so slick that the bees will actually fall off and drown. They still love this old rubber one here, so we've left it here because they can actually hang on to the sides. They don't fall in. So I've left it here for them. Finally got the mulch put on the grapes over here to keep the weeds down from around the crowns. Hey, here's a math problem for the kiddos. If you have 3 grapevines and 2 bags of compost, how do you determine how much to put on each grapevine? You know how to figure that out? So what you would do, so you have 2 bags and you have 3 grapevines, you find a number that both of those numbers will go into, which would be 6, right? Because 3 goes into 6 twice, 2 goes into 6 3 times. So we have 3 grapevines. So if we split those bags into thirds, we put 2/3 on each grapevine, and it comes out equally in all 3. I don't know if you got that. I'm not a math teacher, so, but that's how you do it. Or if you don't have OCD like me, you just guess. So whenever you're mulching, you want your mulch deep enough to where it will work. The problem that most people have with mulch is they don't put it deep enough, and the weeds will still grow up through the mulch. You want at least 3 to 4 inches of mulch. I probably have 8 to 10 inches here because it's going to break down after a while. But you don't need a landscape cloth or none of that if your mulch is thick enough. Landscape cloth is a mess. It always comes up and then stuff gets underneath it, never lays back down correctly, and it's a pain in the butt and it's an eyesore. I never use it. But put your mulch deep enough. If you watched our video when we were doing the front beds last year, you want about 3 inches of mulch, and it works great. In fact, I'll go up and show you those beds and show you that there's no weeds in them. So check out the flower beds we did last spring. There's not a weed in them. These plants you see growing up here are actual plants that we planted, or rose bushes and so on and so on. Now there is some leaves in there, which is fine. Those will break down just fine. And there is some like corn stalks from the neighbor field over here. We get not stalks, but corn leaves and stuff blow out on the yard, but not a weed in that bed. Now as that breaks down, it's going to get thinner and thinner, and we'll have to come in and add more of the bark mulch on top as that breaks down. And as it breaks down, it's also providing nutrients through your plants. Now this bed on the side didn't get near as deep. I think it only got to be about 2 inches. And the green that you see in it here is the hostas coming back. But not a weed in this flower bed. Nowhere. Just plants. I did weed spray the other day right along the edge, real close, so I can mow along that. But that's the only thing we do. Now I've just about got things wrapped up out here outside. So we're going to get things put away, cleaned up, and go inside. I want to get dessert for tonight going early. We're having strawberry shortcake tonight. Maybe I'll show you how to make that my way. It's good stuff. But I wanted to tell you the next probably, let's see, there's 1, 2, the next 4 videos you see are going to be from a trip that I took a couple weeks ago. And we went out to California. My mom moved to Nebraska. So there was actually a family reunion at the same time right before she left. So we went out early, went to the family reunion, got her packed up, me and my brother, and brought her to Nebraska. Now she's a Nebraska resident. I obviously don't want to let people know when I'm gone, so I always post those videos later. But not that I have to worry too much. I mean, we got a great security system anyway. But it's weird. California, if you leave something unlocked and it gets stolen, the insurance company, first thing they'll ask you was your vehicle locked? And if you say no, and your vehicle was stolen or something was stolen out of your vehicle, they say, well, you're not covered. That was negligence on your part. It's your fault that somebody stole something from you. Here in Nebraska, they don't even ask that question. Something gets stolen, the insurance company replaces it. Now, the neat thing is, everybody in Nebraska, depending on what county you're in, your license plate starts with a certain number for your county. So the police here in town, up the road in the town, if they see another county license plate come through and say it's one from the big city counties, they'll actually follow that person around and see what you're up to. Now in California, they'd call that profiling or harassment. In Nebraska, that's just darn good police work. Kind of silly, isn't it? Love it, Nebraska. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We got the road trip videos coming up after this, and then we'll get back to stuff here on the farm. So we love you guys. We'll talk to you later.